Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense and welcome to today's video. I think it's a fairly safe assumption to make and statement to make that everyone wants to smell good. But there are very different reasons for wanting to smell good. For example, if you're on your way to a job interview, you want to smell professional. You want to smell like somebody who can quickly and efficiently and consistently make good decisions that lead you into being a very successful person. At least that's what you want to portray. And if you smell like anything, that's what you want to come off as to the person who's interviewing you and to the people that you meet, your potential peers in the office. Also, when you're dating someone or when you're wanting to attract someone's attention, and not to get creepy or to wax stalker or anything like that, but this is a reality. This is the world we live in. Any guy that's single, that's on the quote unquote prowl, that is, just wanting some companionship of the female variety, if he's going into Barnes & Noble, if he's going to the grocery store and he sees an attractive female, that in itself is an opportunity. And a lot of times guys will throw themselves together. In fact, most of the time, we just throw ourselves together on our way out the door somewhere. And then it's not until after we're in that situation or close proximity to someone that we may be attracted to that we think to ourselves, I wish I would have put on something that makes me a little bit more attractive. So then begs the question, is it possible to wear a fragrance that makes you more attractive? Yes, I'm going to give you 5 suggestions of fragrances that will bump up your attractive factor and if you're in close proximity to a female that you are attracted to. So stay tuned because that's coming up next. Welcome back, guys. Just as there are fragrances that are designed to help present yourself in a very professional, very crisp, clean, thoughtful, efficient manner, there are fragrances for every occasion. Yes, perfumers have created fragrances specifically for the dating arena, both on male and female. And since all we talk about on this channel are men's fragrances, we're going to be talking about 5 fragrances that are made specifically to make you very sexy, alluring, attractive, any adjective that you want to use whenever male and female are paired together. So really a good date night fragrance could be your wingman, as it were. Presents you in a good, positive light. What it says to the female nose and subsequently the female brain is, hey, this guy's interesting. Maybe I want to know more about them. So date night fragrances are meant to capture the female attention, spark their curiosity and imagination, and at the very least be that silent wingman to your romantic intentions. There's a lot of different women out there and there's a lot of different things that attract them to a man, but for the most part, most women are attracted to that kind of semi-bad boy vibe, right? The guy that just steps off the motorcycle, has a leather jacket on, is kind of devil-may-care attitude. If you want to kind of have that bad boy vibe, one of the best fragrances that carries that, at least that I've discovered, is Carolina Herrera's Prive. Prive, and I've discussed this before on my channel, but this is a fantastic, leathery, boozy, yet sophisticated, modern, doesn't smell like an old man's room where he goes in with a smoking jacket and smokes a cigar and sips scotch or whiskey. It's not that kind of boozy, leathery. Again, it still holds that modern, still has a lot of notes and accords that blend well together to make you seem very modern, very sophisticated, and yet there's a little bit of a, on the other side of the coin, a little bit of a bad boy vibe about you. Most women like a little bit of sweetness in their man. You've heard that phrase before, oh, you're so sweet, and you're like, I don't like to be called sweet. But by the same token, that is an important quality for a man to have and to display, at least to someone, maybe later on, maybe not in the first date, but second or third date. And there is definitely sweetness in this. Not only do you get a bad boy vibe, but you get that semi-sweetness in here. It's oriental, it's woody, it's exciting, it's rich, it's even luxurious would be a good word to describe this. You've got lavender, sage, red thyme, cardamom, tonka bean, warm benzoin. Wonderful, wonderful fragrance. It does project really well in a dating scenario. If you're sitting across from someone within a 2 to 3 foot radius, they're going to catch that sillage and it's going to spark their imagination, their curiosity. A lot of guys can attest to its effectiveness in the dating arena. So definitely something you want, and it's relatively inexpensive. Definitely one that I recommend trying out. I love it. Does last a good 6 to 8 hours. Best thing to do is when you get out of the shower, whether you have a date or not, go ahead and spray it on 4 or 5 sprays before you go out for the evening. or before you go on that particular date, and it will last you the duration of the evening, usually around 6, 7, 8 hours long. Carolina Herrera's Prive, bad boy vibe. There you go. One of my absolute favorite date night fragrances, really one of my absolute favorite fragrances just all around, is Dolce & Gabbana's the One EDP, the Eau de Parfum. Now the Eau de Toilette is very similar. It's just the Eau de Parfum, of course, it's going to last longer. It's going to project a little bit better, and it's a little bit darker and a little bit more intense. Fantastic fragrance. There's so many reasons to own this fragrance, and using it as a date night fragrance is probably among the top tier, maybe the top 3 or top 5 reasons for having it. It is such an attractive, alluring fragrance, and it's been out long enough where people are very familiar with it, but there's so many positive and sexy and attractive neuro associations created by this fragrance. So one of the neatest things is the first time that I wore this, someone said, "Are you wearing Dolce & Gabbana the One?" And they recognized the fragrance. They said, "That's, one of my exes used to wear that all the time, and I really, really loved that. That's one of the things I really miss smelling." It was cool to hear. It's almost like a validation that this is a sexy fragrance because of the neuro associations or the memories that are associated with this in many people's minds. So maybe you'll be that guy where you're wearing this and a female will smell it. It will remind her of good and positive things. It might even be like it could have been for me, a conversation starter, right? Breaking the ice. So many accords in this to make it such a great, positive date night fragrance. It is such a uniquely smooth, elegant, and even eloquent fragrance, featuring notes of tobacco, coriander, basil, ginger, orange blossom, and cardamom. To wear this fragrance is to kind of fall in love with it, kind of like a 3-way. So you're wearing this fragrance, you fall in love with it, the person who smells it on you falls in love with it, and thus interest in you. And that's why I say it's a perfect wingman. It might be a great conversation opener, break the ice. With the Eau de Parfum, again, you're going to be able to get that projection within that nimbus of 3 feet, and you're going to be able to wear it for a good 8 to 10 hours. I get a good 8 to 10 hours of wear with the Eau de Parfum, not so much on the EDT. If you do have the EDT, you can still use it. You might want to just take a little decant with you and halfway through the night spritz on again just to refresh it. With the Eau de Parfum, you don't necessarily have to do that. It is a little bit heavier in the concentration of those oils that we love in this fragrance. This next fragrance is kind of a dark horse fragrance of a date night fragrance. In other words, like if you wear this and when you wear it, what happens is that you don't necessarily, it's so subtle that you don't really appreciate it until you've had it on for a while, and then suddenly you're like, wow, I've been smelling this all along and I really, really like it. It's almost like a slow burn, and you don't really appreciate it until you realize you've been enjoying it on the periphery for a while. It's almost like that relationship with that friend that you start looking at in a little bit different light, that you initially didn't have romantic intentions with, but they do something or they say something, and suddenly it tweaks or piques your interest, and you start to look at them a little bit differently. But like the best of relationships, it's full of contrasts and tensions, and that's what the notes in this fragrance create, those wonderful contrasts and tensions and slight challenges, and that is YSL's La Nuit de l'Homme. Now, you've known this fragrance for a long time, and you may be thinking to yourself, what, dark horse? No, that's a very, very well-known date night fragrance. Yes, it is, but I'm talking about how the fragrance performs on you. For me, the way this performs is when I spray it on, again, it's like that friend that you really, really appreciate. I really appreciate this, but I don't realize just how deeply affecting that it can be until much later on in the quote-unquote relationship, in the fragrance relationship. And the dry down of this is so very alluring and so very attractive. Has a relatively simple note profile of cardamom, lavender, bergamot, cedar, cumin, vetiver. This was originally appropriately advertised as a date night fragrance, using words like opulent, elegant, seductive, sensual. Make this the perfect accoutrement or wingman to your date night collection. Because date night fragrances are of a certain complexity, just like relationships are of a certain complexity, a lot of oriental, woody, spicy fragrances are date night fragrances. Euphoria Intense for Men by Calvin Klein is just that. It is a rich, warm, seductive, deeply sensual, oriental, woody, spicy fragrance. This is the kind of fragrance that's similar to La Nuit de l'Homme. It asks you to quietly wait, because although that open is very rich, it's very powerful and attractive, What it's really asking you to do is wait on that dry down. Just like, kind of like a date, you know? So a lot of guys think, well, if she would only just give me the time of day or give me an in, then she could see that I'm that quality guy. Well, sometimes that takes a little bit more than just a hello and a handshake or a cup of coffee. That's what this is saying. It's saying, you know what? I know that there's some attraction between us. There's some commonalities between us, some common ground. That's great, but you just wait. There's more to come, and that more to come is going to be very positive, very good, and you'll be happy that you spent that time. Just like you'll be happy that you waited on the dry down of this. There's almost like a light raspberry smell to Euphoria Intense, and just like the name implies, it really helps you get into that more intimate, romantic headspace where two people are just sitting together in that bubble where the conversation is flowing and free-flowing and easy and carefree. And it's almost like that, when you're on a really good date and you're sitting, you're talking, it's almost like 2 or 3 hours just fly by in the blink of an eye, and that's always a good sign. That happened with my very first date that I went on with my wife, and I knew that it was almost over, after that. When you get into that headspace with somebody, this is going to help you do that. This is going to be that perfect wingman that says, here, let me lay the groundwork, the foundation, and then I'll quietly step away and you can do the rest. And Euphoria Intense is that perfect fragrance out of the ones that we're talking about this evening, especially with the infused spices and the heady mix of myrrh and other spices. You've got ambroxan, vetiver, labdanum, agar wood. And because of all the spices that are used in this, you can count on the projection to be really good. And you can also count on the longevity to be as equally good 8 to 9 hours out of this fragrance. Because all these that are dark, oriental, woody fragrances typically have that full, rich body to allow for a much better projection and longevity than your standard freshie. But they're going to be really good for those intimate, closer contact conversations and relationships and situations and encounters. Last on my list is Alfred Dunhill's Icon. Now, Icon contains so many rich and varying fragrances, but primarily what you're going to get out of this is a very semi-sweet, semi-smoky, yet very alluring and seductive neroli. Now, neroli is a semi-floral note, but it is a very white, it's kind of a white, musky, semi-flowery, but masculine, semi-sweet note. And that's what I really like about neroli. It makes you think of the best of regenerative growth for spring and summer and fresh starts. So the reason I've chosen this as a date night fragrance, because date nights are representative of that, right? The best thing that you can be, at least in the mind of a woman whose imagination and curiosity that you've piqued and sparked, is the thought of a fresh start or a brand new relationship, a new beginning. A fresh start to start all over, to wipe the slate clean and begin fresh and begin new. It's almost like that thought of a new day with no mistakes in it. That's what Alfred Dunhill's Icon represents with that wonderfully rich neroli note. It is very, very multi-layered and complex, and that's what I like about it. It reveals its layers just like an onion over time. You get deeper and deeper into the heart of this fragrance. Kind of engulfs two people into its primary objective, and that is to grow closer and to bond. So an extremely effective bonding fragrance, Alfred Dunhill's Icon. That's it, guys, for my 5 date night fragrances. Now, if you use these appropriately, they really will become like your best wingman. They'll help set up that situation for you to follow through with, just to kind of lay the groundwork if used effectively and appropriately. So I highly recommend, if you don't have these already, try a sample first before you purchase. All of these come in various sizes. Maybe get that 50 ml bottle or 30 ml bottle first. But all of these are tried and true. If you go out to any forum, people are talking about them. Lots of reviewers have reviews on them that are similar to this. I've chosen from very, very well-known and popular, kind of semi-mass appealing, crowd-pleasing fragrances, but they're specifically for those date night scenarios. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I really do appreciate your time. As always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I know that it's really hard to set up date nights, especially in the current circumstance that we're in, but it's not gonna, just keep in mind, it's not gonna last forever. When the doors open again, you're gonna be completely prepared and ready for what comes next. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time.